really working at it and then realizing, you know what, again, it's up to us to break that cycle. I don't want Finn to grow up like I did, where I didn't feel like I had a voice.
Right.
Want to be strong and speak up, and just life's so much better when you feel like you can do that and you do that.
Yeah.
So that's that whole thing.
Yeah.
My siblings, unfortunately, they didn't decide to break that cycle, so they have their own issues with one another, and they don't really talk to one another much. Yeah, so I guess there's that dysfunction that continues even when they're
family, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're older than I am, but I sometimes say, like, gosh, are you 12? It's like, just talk to the, I'm always the intermediary. They say things to me and they're like, well, what do you think so-and-so said? Or what do you think? No, you need to talk to them directly.
Yeah.
And before I would just kind of take it in and have it weigh on me and then not say anything. And then I'd hear something from over here and like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right.
So it's just amazing how you are influenced by all that when you grow up. And unless you do something about it, you end up being the same way all the way through your adulthood, and you can pass it on to your kids.
Right. So y'all both were like, we're not going to do it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's great. And like, have you talked to your siblings about Finn?
Yes.
How was that for you?
That was, it wasn't difficult for me. And, I've told Finn time and time again through all this learning and that we've gone through over the years that, you can control how you react to things, you control what you say, you control your motives, but you can't control other people and what they may say or what they may think. And so I honestly didn't have any, I wasn't thinking ahead of like, ooh, what's my sister A going to say, my sister B going to say. I just like, okay, this is the situation, and I kind of knew how they'd react, but I didn't I didn't worry about how they'd react, because it doesn't change things, and I'm not looking for someone's opinion. It's just more of sharing.
Right.
This is a situation, and and as far as support goes, everyone's been fantastic, with the exception of one sister, and it's more because she just, for lack of a better way of saying it, she just has chosen to not really grow over the years and just learn from mistakes, and she kind of lives her life as a victim and always has, always getting the short end of the stick. Everything happens to me. I have no control over anything. And so that's been interesting because, she was more like, you just accepted what Finn said, and you're okay calling Finn, and boy, that's hard. That's going to be hard on me to call him that. And I'm like, again, it's not about you,
right?
But Finn takes it as humor, so he'll actually call my sister and just say, "Hey, what questions do you have?" Because they're just ridiculous questions. Yeah. Just, like, oh my God, I hate to say ignorant, but there's some really ignorant questions that come from that direction, and I just shake my head, and Finn is just laughing. He's like holding down the phone and laughing about it.
That's so great.
Yeah, I know. Really, flip it, right? Flip it to something positive.
How do you respond to is like when you see him react that way? How does that?
It makes me feel good. It's like, you're the adult here.
Yeah, good.
And good for you. And I said, just don't feel like you have to. Use it as a chance to educate her, because she obviously hasn't taken a moment to go research anything and learn. And because if she did, she'd realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've asked these questions, because they're so offensive, and they are ignorant questions, and they're not really being asked from a place of concern for Finn. It's more about her curiosity,
right? And
how hurtful that can be, and just she's really fortunate that he is taking it the way he is.
Yeah, I think that's really cool how you can like frame it that way and see that she's reacting to it because of like who she said who she is.
Oh yeah, right? Because she's losing her niece. That's what she keeps saying. She's lost her niece.
What do you feel when people say that? Like, what is your response to that? I guess narrative, because I feel like we hear that narrative from time to time with like, trans kids.
I mean, she's the only one that's reacted that way. I mean, I'm talking out of all the people that I've talked to. talk to each person at my work. We have a small office, and I felt it was important to
Yeah.
share that, and with Finn's permission, of course. And man, I had more, learned discussions with them than I did my own sister.
Yeah.
So in terms of how I feel about that, it's just more about her, and just I know how she is, than it is really I don't want to say a reflection on the whole situation. She just looks at everything as if how it impacts her. So for her, say I'm losing my niece, it's just her, to me, being just melodramatic and just not looking at the situation from the right point of view. Think of it in terms of, forget for a moment about you. Think about that person.
That person, yeah.
And she doesn't. It's always about her. She makes everything about her.
Sometimes, I feel like sometimes the narrative out there with parents will sort of say the same thing, like they've lost a son or a daughter, right? Do you think that comes from the sort of same explanation, like as your sister, as they're thinking about themselves?
Yes,
or,
I do. And I think, unfortunately, in a lot of situations with kids that Finn is befriended online that live in other places, they don't have the parent support. And I would say probably 99 times out of 100 of those situations, it's because the parents are making it about them and what their expectations were of their kids. And it's like, you got to let your kid be who they are. It's not about you. When you have kids, it's like you almost, it's like you have to take the perspective of it's about them. It's not about how you think they should be or what you want them to be or what you envision them to be. It's about trying to help them be who they are. And regardless of the situation that we're in, I'm just saying in general. So it's unfortunate that the parents end up making an already difficult situation for the kid worse because. Geez, if you can't get support in your own household, you can't feel comfortable to be who you are. In in some cases, I'm not saying them, calling them by their name, and not addressing them as, he or she or however they've asked to be addressed. Again, making it about them. And that's at least my perspective. But that's what it sounds like with a lot of these other parents. It's just that they had these visions of their kid being in a wedding dress. That's my sister. She said that to Finn, and it's like, oh, I just so you're not gonna walk down the aisle and exactly.
Like
that's how I reacted. Like, what? Like, who are you gonna date? How are you gonna date? Well, just like everybody else date. I mean, what kind of silly questions are those?
So it's just.
That's who we're dealing with.
I feel like that's a common experience. Everybody's dealing with at least one person that
is like
making
that.
those types of questions,
Wow.
Or comments, So I don't know. I guess I was just thinking about when you see Finn react that way to your sister, and he's really confident and things like that. What are been some of the best parts of your experience as a parent, or the high points that sort of stick out to you?
Just as being a parent, just watching your kid grow into the person that they are. And I mean, he's got just a fantastic personality and just so fun to talk to him. And I love every minute I get to spend with him. He might not say that about spending with me,
well, he's a teenager.
He's 14, right? But it's just been fun to see him grow. And I tell him often that, you might be wise beyond your years because he's very mature for his age, which probably isn't unusual, just given what, you'll have to go through along the way. But he'll do things and I'll say, thank you for reminding me you're still 14. Not 14 going on, 30. And he'll laugh because it's just something silly. I pulled up to pick up him and a friend of his, and they were just bouncing up and down. And I'm like, what? So they were, and then Finn's like, oh, there's my mom. And I came to the car and I was like, what were you doing? Like, oh, Fiona just said, hey, you want to come over and bounce with me? Like, sure. Awesome. That's when I said, that's a perfect example. Thank you for reminding me that you're still a kid. So that's it. It's been great. You know, we've had some tough stuff to get through, but you know,
Yeah.
for me, it's just part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. What do you think some of the hardest parts were?
For me, it was probably those couple of months there
Yeah.
where, you know, I get home from work and David was a stay-at-home dad pretty much for most of the time. Finn growing up, so he picked up Finn from school. So I'd come to the door and Finn usually sits. You can see that's why that part's so messy over there.
That's his spot.
But that's his spot, yeah. He'd kill me for saying that, but that's okay. So I'd come to the door, and you know, normally I would be greeted with a smile or, "Hey, Mom," you know, doing homework. But it was like the death stare, and I was like, "What? You know, where's it coming from?" It was very upsetting because we never had that kind of relation. I mean, we'd always talk about stuff and laugh and cut up and be silly. And that's why I said something had changed and I didn't know what. And we were worried that it was some influence coming from somebody else. And we just wanted to make sure of that. And so, you know, after the fact and, you know, once he shared with all of us, I felt bad about that whole time because, you know, we didn't know. And I felt bad that he didn't feel like he could tell us earlier than when he did. But he assured us that, look, I was just trying to figure it out. And I didn't even know myself.
How to say it or explain it.
Yeah. So, and I get that too, but that was just a hard time. And it makes me, not so much that it made me feel bad, but just knowing he was going through that and, you know, that how difficult that must have been.
Yeah.
And thankfully there were people that he was communicating with to help him with that.
Yeah, that's good.
And so that was the hardest time. But since then it's been really good. I mean, you know, we talk all the time because to me it's just so important because we didn't talk growing up.
Right, so it's nice to have that. What is like maybe a turning point in your experience as a parent where like maybe you underwent like a change in understanding of yourself as a parent? I guess like was there an experience that you had where you're like, whoa, like you know?
Well, I would say maybe even it was very early on because I would tap on the shoulder of my best friend, lives in Texas. We play tennis together and we're like sisters. Yeah. And she got married a lot younger than I did, not long out of college, and then had kids. She has, you know, 2 grown kids. They're, I don't know, 30 and 26.
Oh,
right? So, and I wholeheartedly trust her opinion. So, you know, along the way, I would say, hey, what's your advice? You know, Ben's doing this, or, you know, how would you handle that?
Yeah.
So early on, she passed along some advice that other people had given her about the Love and Logic, you know, parenting with Love and Logic. Have you ever heard this? Oh man, there people are based in Golden that started this, and they've written books, and it's how they parented, but then they wrote books about it. Yeah, parenting with Love and Logic, and then they have parenting for Love and Logic for teens, and they have early childhood. But it's the more or less the premise of their parenting approach is at every age, you know, obviously set appropriate boundaries, but allow your kids to make decisions starting at the youngest age you possibly can. So it's like they're going off to school in kindergarten. Hey, do you want to wear your coat or do you want to bring it with you and put it in the car? So it's not wear your coat or put on your coat. You're making the decision. It's, hey, do you want to wear it or do you want to bring it in the car? So either one of those are fine with you. They're getting their coat, they're taking it with them, but they're the ones that are making the decision.
They get more autonomy over it.
Exactly. So they get used to making decisions, and then if they decide not to do that, that's on them. It wasn't you, right? So they're cold outside. Not a big deal when they're that young. Yeah. And it's the idea is they learn the lesson because they make the choices, and as they grow up, when you let them make the choice, not teaching them a lesson, which is hard for me. I just can't help myself. When you let them make the decision, it allows them to get the confidence that they can make choices, and they can, you know, it's all about choices. Life is about choices.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome.
And so it's somewhat sobering when they talk about it, but it's true. It's like, you know, if you've done a good enough job with allowing them to make choices and them getting used to it and knowing consequences, your goal is to make it where they're not going to get in that car with someone that's been drinking, for example, at 16. They're going to say, nope, you know what? Or make a similar bad decision because they've never had to make a decision before. And so anyway, reading those books has been fantastic, and it's really helped us with,
Yeah.
you know, it's also about asking questions in the right way, where you're asking their opinion rather than telling them, you know, something, and then it helps with conversation. So for me, it was enlightening, not to be that Miss Fix-It, rush in the rescue helicopter parent at a very early age for him. Same with David. You know, I think we're just all predisposed to just want to fix stuff because you want to
I'm a
fix stuff.
fixer too.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get it.
Like, let them fail, and that's hard. But that was, for me, that was what's eye-opening. I just have to keep that in check, because if I don't revisit those books, I tend to gravitate more back to the teaching the lesson rather than letting them figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, what kinds of things, here's a problem. What kinds of things can you do? What are some solutions for that?
Were there moments where you saw Finn sort of starting to make those decisions and things?
Oh,
like that?
yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, that's nice.
You know, you can, what is it, some of the things like, oh, David's putting something in the oven. Can I go over to so and so's house, for example? It's like, oh yeah, we'd love for you to go over to after you clean the litter boxes. Right. It's not clean litter boxes. You can't go until it flips it. You're saying the same thing, but it's that's really good.
I'll check it out. Just to kind of like, I guess with this project and stuff, just learning more about, I'm not a parent, so like learning more about parenting and thinking about how to frame that later, and I think maybe that'll help me.
Oh, it is. It's wonderful. Wonderful.
So how would you define, or how do you understand being a good parent or a successful parent? What is a good parent or a successful parent? Is
that's a really good question, because I think, just like I tell Finn, that, you know, success isn't measured by, you know, in a career isn't by how much money you make or happiness in life. It's just not measured in what you have. It can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So for me, it's just trying to help guide as best I can Finn to be the best person he can be. Yeah. Whatever that looks like, whatever that is, you know, he likes to write, so he's thought about being an author someday. You know, great. You know, how can I help you do that? You talked about maybe being a counselor too. Something, you know, how can I help you do that? But it's really guiding him in whatever way I can, whether it's setting a good example or, you know, talking about things, whatever that may be, to give the right support so that he can take it upon himself to be the best version of himself, be independent and have that confidence to go out and know he can do things, and you know, feel like he can face a challenge and overcome it.
Yeah. Has that been your view like all along, or has that changed over time?
No, I think that's really, it's just gotten more solid. Because of, you know, what he deals with today and, you know, what he has to deal with on a daily basis. And then what the future holds, and just that journey. Yeah,
it sounds like he's handling it really well.
He is. Way better than I think I ever did. That's just a lot.
If you could go back and give yourself advice, what would it be?
That's a good question. Probably, I'm a little bit more on the. I'm a CPA, so I'm very analytical. So sometimes I can overanalyze and sometimes take things too serious, take myself too seriously, and sometimes I need to lighten up. And I would probably say that, because in the past, I've gotten a lot better with that, where I kind of let things roll off of me. But in the past, no, I kind of held on to that. And I think a lot of that has to do with just working through learning how to communicate. So that I would say, probably learning to do all of that at a younger age. But, you know, didn't know to, right? So.
So what would you want to say to other parents with similar experiences?
Listen to your kids. That's, I mean, that just says so much. To really listen to your kids and not let your own blinders get in the way. Like, really listen to your kids, and I mean, really, that's so much, right? And no matter what the circumstances, just you really hear them, and you really can connect that way, and you can really help your kid, which is what you want to do anyway.
Right. Regardless. Yeah. And do you have any other comments or thoughts that you want to share about your experience, or as a parent of with a child who's trans, or
not really, just other than just be a support. You and if your significant other is in, you have a significant other, it's like you're that front line of support, and it starts there. And if that's broken, or there isn't the right support, then it just makes, again, a difficult time for that kid, so much more difficult. Yeah. But if it starts with a positive experience in the home with the parents, then it's just such a great foundation, or it allows for there to be as solid a foundation as possible for what lies ahead.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great advice, I think. So that's all the questions that I have. So I'll just state.